Guys, my name's Frank. Welcome to today's episode of Cooking Like You Mean It. We all have those friends that go like to hunt, fish, then they get all this meat, they end up throwing it in their freezer, and a bit later, it may find its way to your freezer because they're like, hey, would you like some deer meat? Would you like some pork shoulder? Would you like this, that, or the other? Different types of wild game. There's a lot of different ways to cook it. We've got about a 8 pound pork shoulder here today. A buddy of mine hunted and sourced naturally out in the wild. And it's been in his freezer for a bit, so it's not always the best thing for your meat to store it in the freezer and let it sit there for a long time because you can get freezer burn, things like that, dry it out. We're going to show you how to put some flavor back in it today, and we're going to make some good food, you know what I mean? All right guys, so the first thing you want to do, you want to thaw out your wild game, you want to thaw your meat out. In this case, we have about a, like I was saying, about an 8-9 pound pork shoulder that my friend sourced naturally. He hunted it. It was, I guess, what you would consider field dressed. So it didn't make it to a professional butcher. So what you want to do is just kind of go over the meat, trim any pieces of real thick gristle off, any hair, skin, anything that's left on it. You want to leave the fat on here though, because we're going to be smoking this thing for about 12 to 14 hours. So we're going to need that fat to render it down and keep it juicy. And also, like I was saying, when you have things in the freezer for extended periods of time, they tend to dry out. And we're gonna put the flavor back in this. But the first thing we're gonna do, like I was saying, we're just gonna rinse it off and see what we're working with here, which this looks like a gorgeous piece of meat. Wow. This is gonna be exciting, guys. Stay tuned. All right, guys, once again, not sponsored by these guys, but I owe it to my buddy Russ Nunley up in North Mississippi in Tishomingo. He turned me on to this, sent me a bottle, and it is absolutely amazing. So what we're gonna do, I've got some Irish butter here that I melted down, and I've stirred in some of this seasoning, some of this Boar's Night Out, and we're gonna inject our pork shoulder here, add some flavor into it, and get some juiciness back that the freezer stole from it. So here we go, we're gonna start injecting it. All right, so you wanna kind of stir this in to your butter, draw it up, and start finding some good spots, good angles to get into your meat. Start injecting it. I always like to kind of inject it as I'm pulling it out there. Make sure you get lots of it in there. And you can use any seasoning you want for this type of thing, whatever your preference. If you want barbecue, then go for barbecue. This is a double garlic seasoning that we're using here. And I tell you right now, just touching it to your tongue, man, I think you could put it on just about anything, make it good. There's pretty thick skin on this hog, so should get through that. Oh yeah, I feel her plumping up nice in there. It's gonna be nice. What we're gonna do, probably cook it standard open on the smoker for about probably 8 to 9 hours. And then the last 3 hours or so, we're gonna wrap it in foil and crank the heat up to about 275. And that's gonna give us that fall off the bone effect that you get from your local barbecue restaurants. I'm gonna show you how to do that at home, guys. Hope y'all are hungry. Stay tuned. All right, folks. We have injected our pork shoulder here with the Boar's Night Out seasoning and our melted Irish butter. So now what we want to do is go ahead and give this thing a good rub down. Depending on what seasoning you're using, you may want to use more or less of it. I don't know, what you guys prefer. But this seasoning, I'm used to the flavor. I know about how much to put, and a good bit is perfectly fine. You want to make sure you get the whole thing coated. And this seasoning's available online. It is from Olive Branch, Mississippi, I believe, is where they make this. Get all the sides, get everything coated here. All right, let's flip this hog over. All right, here we go. There she is. Let's coat this side really good. I had a little bit of butter and seasoning left in my bowl there that I was using for an injection. I went ahead and I rubbed the shoulder down with it. It'll help the seasoning stick to it and keep that skin nice and juicy, and it'll help us get a little bit of a bark on it when we do the smoke on it, and increase the temperature and wrap the pork shoulder in foil to do our last 3-hour cook. All right, guys, that's it for now. We're gonna let this guy sit for a little bit, and yeah, let this flavor soak in, and then we'll get it ready to go in the smoker. Stay tuned. All right, guys, I hope you're hungry. I've got something really good for us here. This pork shoulder's turned out beautiful so far. It's been at 225 degrees on the electric smoker out there for about 10.5 hours. Just pulled it off. I've been checking the internal temp. Everything's good. We're gonna take it up to 200 to 205. Should take about maybe 2 hours to 3 hours. We're gonna wrap it in foil and throw it back in the smoker at 275, so stay tuned. Hey there, my hungry people. It's the moment we've all been waiting for. It's time to unwrap this beautiful pork shoulder and see what we got underneath this foil. I cooked it at 275 for a little over 2 hours. Got the internal temp up to 200. Wow, that is pretty. That is real pretty. Flip her over here. Wow, what a nice piece of meat. I'm gonna get this thing pulled and chopped up here, and we're gonna make some sandwiches with it. Stay tuned. Guys, had to show you all this. Couldn't leave y'all out. Y'all been with me all day for this smoke, and just wanted to show you guys how tender that you can make pork that's been stored in a freezer and thawed back out, added some flavor back in it, and it's just as tender and juicy as when it was fresh. So can't complain here. Thing smells amazing. Yes, I know I'm using forks for this. I'm gonna keep pulling and get this thing prepped out so we can have some good sandwiches. All right, guys, and we've got our wild boar shoulder. It's completely pulled after smoking it. Got some barbecue sauce here, some pickles. I've toasted some buns. We're gonna make some barbecue sandwiches. I appreciate you guys being along for the journey. And there's only one thing left to do. Let's try this out. All right, guys, got a sandwich ready here. It's only one thing left to do. Let's give it a shot. Wow. That's really good. You know, the Boar's Night Out, even though it's just double garlic on the seasoning, it's not overwhelmingly garlicky, if you want to call it that. It's actually got a rather sweet finish. It really works great with this pork. And this being a wild boar, it's going to be leaner than a pork shoulder or a Boston butt that you would pick up in your local supermarket. So the meat's not going to be as marbled. So it's a good idea to add the butter into it. I prefer the Irish butter, which is what we used. I think it's turned out great, guys. Man, I'm going to eat some of this and share it with my company. You guys keep cooking like you mean it, and I'll see you next time.